Hey everybody, what's up? This is Devin, LaVore, and
Michelle LaVore coming at
ya
you.
as we do. Faithfully yours. Anyway, so it's Friday, March 1st. No, we did not wake up at 8 o'clock this morning like we planned. See, that was my plan. I don't think that was the Lord's plan, because yesterday the Lord was like, maybe just take a little rest and then start the cycle again.
Yeah.
It's like working out. You can be so intense in your workout routine. It's like you got to have rest days.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's the whole point. We're trying to rest, but then as we're going through this cycle, it's actually unresting. You know.
Yeah.
So, but it's been a good day otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So anyway, what is today? Today is Friday, March 1st. It's my friend Susie's birthday. Happy birthday, Susie! Boom. Hope you had a good one. And we also always want to say thank you to those who are supporting us through this crazy, fantastically crazy journey we're on right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome, and it's sometimes not so awesome, but it's a good journey. And we just wanted to thank you guys for being there for us, encouraging words, supporting us financially. It's been a huge, huge miracle from God, right? And so if you guys would like to support us, because we are support-based for those of you who don't know, there's a PayPal link below. You can just click that bad boy, give us all your money. We'll love you. No, I'm just kidding. But today we do have a good word and a good teaching to Michelle has got something she's going to say, and then I have a word that I feel like it's almost like a teaching word. This is literally like a fulfillment of prophecy happening right before your eyes. Maybe we haven't really shared it, but we're just letting you know, like, what's happening right now. It really is a fulfillment of like going up to another level, and just personal things God spoke to us that He said He was going to start doing. You know, God says, "Oh, I'm going to start doing that," and you go, "Okay, I'm going to sit back and relax." You know what I mean?
No, I'm talking about right now.
It's like right now, and it's like, oh, I didn't know you were talking about right now. So,
yeah. So
why don't you go ahead and start with what you got from the Lord, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So I just wanted to. There's actually a couple things that I wanted to say, but the first thing was, you know, yesterday when we made our video, at the very end of it, as I was praying, God was giving me the picture of basically these kind of sailboats that were sitting on it was just super calm water, completely still, and it was sunny, blue skies, and then that the wind of the Spirit came. But today, I really felt like God was kind of showing and kind of highlighting this space of time where the boats were doing nothing. They were literally just sitting in this calm place, waiting for the Spirit of God to move on the boat. But it's in that place, there's literally nothing going on. And I know that we really have kind of found ourselves in that place where it's like God saying, okay, the storm is over. Mm-hmm. The wind of my Spirit is coming. I mean, He has been speaking that so much lately.
Both of those things. Yeah.
About the storm is over, but I'm coming. Get ready. Get ready for just what I'm going to do. He was, personally speaking to us about, getting ready for just that move of my Spirit, that going on this like wild adventure with Him. And it's like, okay, ooh, all right, we're ready for
getting excited.
We're ready to go. And then you get to this moment where it's like, okay, now this, the storm's done, but we're still not seeing necessarily any movement going the other way. Where are we? And I really feel like
calm seas.
God is saying,
happening,
it's like, all right, you're just in this place of calm seas. Nothing's happening, and it's very clear. I mean, it's that blue sky, the sun, and it really is very clear, and it's just like, but you're just waiting. Mm-hmm. You don't have any paddles. You can't do anything. Yeah. You have to wait for the wind of the Spirit to move your boat anywhere. And so that's just kind of really where we find ourselves. But it's in that place that panic can kind of set in,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you really can't do anything to change your situation. And so I think, like our video yesterday was talking about, and what Devin's going to go into, it can be a place where you really have to be careful with just what your emotion, what your heart emotions and soul can start. It can start to just be like, oh, come on, I gotta have this movement. What's going on? I want something different. We've been in this place
Guilty.
where it's very much like, man, I just really want to see change.
Have I been there today?
Yes.
Oh my
very
gosh.
much so.
The wind of my own spirit.
It's trying to.
Just like,
It's those moments. I don't know how many people have ever felt this, but maybe there's just this day where, man, you just really want to get out and do something, but you just can't. Like, for whatever reason, maybe you don't have the money for it, maybe it's raining outside, maybe whatever the circumstances are, maybe your kids are sick, you're fine, but your kids are sick, and so you can't do what you wanted to do, and there's this something inside of you that's just going, I just really want to do something, like, and yet you can't.
Yeah.
And you just eventually have to just come to this place where you're like,
embrace it.
Okay, this is where I'm at, but I'm just going to be at peace.
Yeah.
And I'm going to trust. And I'm going to rest in that peace.
Yep.
And not allow the stuff that's swirling around me to take that from me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first thing I wanted to share. And the other thing I feel like is really, really important, and God, actually it was this morning in prayer time, we have been talking about, just some of the heart wounds and things like that that have come up. And one of the things for me has been just this feeling of, so much of the time we're going through things and God's, saying things prophetically, but, there have been times where it does match up, but it usually is matching up in like these hard places. It's like, oh, okay, yes, that makes sense. That's what God's doing. But then it's not until later that then God reveals and says, this is what I've been doing. And so then you're like, oh, that makes total sense. Like, this is what God's been doing this whole time. All right, But this morning, I really felt like God was saying He wants us to see clearly what He's doing as He's doing it. And He is saying, that's why He's saying, ask for the clarity, because I am giving it, because I want you to be wide-eyed, seeing my every movement, knowing what I'm doing as you're going. And I feel like for God, because He says, I will reverse their captivity right before their eyes. There is an ability.
That's Zephaniah 3:20.
Yeah, there's just this seeing the reversing of our captivity. And God is really wanting His people to know He's going to give us, advance, like, okay, this is what I'm getting ready to do, but you will start seeing it happen in your life. This isn't okay, that's way down the road kind of thing. It's like, no, you are going to start to see it, but I want you to be aware of it. This is not a time when oh, wow, we've been following the Lord, we're following the Lord, and then eventually you look back and you go, oh, that's what you were doing. No, He's saying, I want you to see it right now. I want you to be aware of what I'm doing right now, so that you are in awe as we go along, as I am bringing you into your place that I have for you. And I just really felt that was something that's on the heart of God. He's saying, I am bringing clarity, I'm giving you the bigger picture, I'm doing all of this because I want you to see, and I want you to know what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you just shared the heart of God there.
I did.
And I'm about to release the pen.
Yes.
That's interesting. Little prophetic word God gave to us. Like, God, God's
And
like,
seriously, that was
you're the heart,
yesterday.
and I'm the pin.
Which,
and
yeah.
there's more to it, but I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, look at this. Literally is everything you're saying is like happening like right now in our lives. Like right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. And that is actually encouraging because it's like you get prophetic words and you just don't know. Like, okay, who knows when that's going to happen? You think it's going to happen now or maybe soon, but it's like, dang, I said that like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's still not happening. It's like,
Well,
what's the deal?
And I think, too,
so
like,
it's encouraging to see
yeah.
it happening. Like,
yeah,
go ahead,
because
go
I
ahead.
think sometimes, too, it's like God does speak a prophetic word,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't understand how it's actually happening until much, much later on, and then we
Mm-hmm.
go, oh, yeah, what he...
That's what
You're
you were
right.
doing.
You we did see that, but it's the and I
Christmas in July.
think exactly
Great
perfect
example.
Whereas that's why I feel like God is just saying like, no, I want you to know as we go
So awesome.
what I'm doing.
Thank you.
And just that we will really be seeing it, and we will be in complete awe and wonder of who He is because we're seeing it unfold.
Yeah. It's amazing. So yeah, I've been kind of like struggling today, big time, with the boat not moving thing. And
Yeah.
I've tried to make light of it and laugh about it, but it's like it's really been dealing with me. I'm just like stuff that like normally, yeah, it might bother me, but it's like really bothering me today. And I'm even talking to Michelle. I'm like, Michelle, what is wrong with me? Why am I so like agitated about the dumbest stuff? Like, and I'm just like, and it's because the boat's not moving.
Yeah, and you want the boat to move.
Well, and that disappointment trigger
Mm-hmm.
is being hit. That disappointment wound is being touched by the lack of movement.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, what do you mean by that? Well, I'm starting to believe that I'm going to be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and then that disappointment ooze that comes out, you can start spewing it out your mouth. And I know, like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to listen to that. I'm not, it's a kind of a get behind me disappointment in the name of Jesus type of thing. But it's like, it's still there hurting. And I'm just like, Lord, what's the deal? I had a conversation with the Lord last night. And I was struggling with this not movement thing. I didn't even realize that's what I was dealing with until you shared what you just shared about the boats and everything. And it's like, that is so spot on, accurate, right? Because I was struggling with it last night, and I was just like, Lord, why do I keep coming to these places where you're doing amazing things and it's so clear? Like we always use the example, like Mount of Transfiguration, like level of reality type stuff. It's like really amazingly cool stuff. And yet, I come back down and I'm having to deal with, it's like when they came down from the Mount Transfiguration, what they have to deal, they had to deal with a demon, you know? And it's just like, it's like, I feel like that a lot of times. A lot of times I come down from these places and I'm having to deal with depression or anxiety or disappointment or something like that, trying to come in and just, like the Lord said at the beginning of the week, beware of false disappointments, which is why we made yesterday's video. Because after that, man, it started hammering us. Mm-hmm. And then you go, oh, that's why you shared that with us, because we were going to get, and I was thinking like, okay, and then it just kept getting worse and worse throughout the week, and then last night it was really bad. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, and it exposed, before I get into this, it exposed for me a hidden, I don't know what to call it, a hidden stronghold, a hidden erroneous thinking. You can, how there's things in your life, you can just become so used to them, you don't realize that they're there. You realize that they're there, but you forgot that it's actually a problem that it's there. Maybe you can't hear, or you can't walk right, or your hips always messed up or something, and you just learn to live with it. And it's like you don't realize, well, you can just like get that healed. You can get that fixed. And it's like last night I realized I have this part of my heart that's like with certain things, like I just don't want to talk to the Lord about it because I feel like I shouldn't. Like I feel like it's not right to talk to him about it. And the Lord just said to me, I'm in the bathroom, I'm just standing in the bathroom, just kind of like, Lord, what is going on with me? This is like the enemy or something. But it's like, a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's not the enemy. It's just something's getting dredged up in you.
Yeah.
And the enemy can, jump on the opportunity, but it wasn't him to begin with.
Yeah.
And so, and the Lord just said to me, he was like, Devin, you can ask me anything. And it was so profound because it cut through something that I didn't even know was there.
Yeah.
And I was like, why did that minister to me so brightly just now? It's like, because you feel like you can't.
Yeah.
You feel like there's some taboo things that you can't talk to the Lord about. And you don't realize that you have these taboo things. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, wow. So then I had this conversation with the Lord. And I'm like, well, Lord, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm dealing with. And this is what's going on. And in the midst of that, now listen, I'm having this conversation with the Lord in my head. I'm not saying anything. So there's these things that are popping up, and that's not the enemy. He doesn't know what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. This is stuff that's popping up in me. It's like, oh, you shouldn't say that, and oh, that's a bad thing to say. Oh, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, and I'm just waiting because there's some, and there's some negative stuff too that wants to point the finger at God and be like, God, man, you said this, and it's not happening. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Stuff like that, and I waited. I'm not going to let that stuff kind of get, kind of photobomb what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, no, you got to get out of the way. I'm going to say this in a spirit of humility and a right attitude, but I am going to say what I want to say, because that's what God wants.
Yeah.
Anyway, and those religious blockades and stuff will keep you from going through there.
Yeah.
And so it reminded me of the movie. It reminds me of that movie Oblivion. Are we an effective team?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, somebody out there got that quote one time, and I was like, yes, it's Oblivion. It's not Incredibles. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but it's like they had these blocked off areas. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't go to those areas because it was like, no, danger, danger, danger. But it was a lie.
Yeah.
They just didn't want, they didn't want Tom Cruise's character to know that he was a clone of like 1,000 others just like him. And they created this false boundary. And when he just decided, I'm just going to break the boundary. I don't care. Kind of like the Truman Show. You know? I'm just going to break the boundary and find out the truth. And then he found that there was another guy who looked just like him. And it was like, whoa. So it's like, that's kind of like how breakthrough can be sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, it's scary and dangerous and like, oh. And so I had this conversation with the Lord, and the Lord was like, hey, guess what you're doing? You're stepping into sonship.
Yeah.
Sons and fathers have these kind of conversations, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Servants, they're like, I'm not going to say this or that or that. It's fear-based relationship. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, well,
I can tell you're bubbling.
Yes. Well, as you were talking, though, I'm just reminded our son, he had, our oldest had I guess it's a vision of tombs, like from Lazarus. Mm-hmm. How like the stone was in front of the tomb, and he said he saw like these tombs that were all around it was like the glory of God was in the center, but there was tombs all around, and he knew that the tombs kind of represented our hearts, and I really felt like God was saying there that those tombs, those areas is literally areas of our heart that they haven't seen the glory of God, and I knew that it had to do specifically with the promises not being fulfilled yet. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like God has come and He Himself has rolled the stone back to bring this to a place of conversation, to a place where, hey, we need to open that part of your heart, and I need to start bringing my glory in so that's no longer there, so that tomb is empty, so that there is no hidden or dark place in the heart that's been, because I think for really all of us and every single person in our family, minus the baby, of course, it has really held this part of our heart in a tomb, because it's one of those places, and we've talked about it most recently this morning and last night, because God's really brought it up. He's really been like, okay, let's bring this out in the open. Let's start discussing these things. And there's been different times in this journey that we've had specific conversations about this, but it was just, again, this like, hey, let God come in and bring healing. And so we were just talking about it, how we all feel, what has this journey been like, what are we dealing with, and really every single one of us in the exact same thing in the area of the promises not being fulfilled, waiting for the Lord to fulfill, constantly hearing prophetic words, and just how all of that has affected and shaped that part of our heart. And yet at the same time, there's it's like you have that area, and I think why it's closed off and why it's kind of been in that position is it's like you just don't want to touch it. You're saying, like there's those blockades that say, well, I do have faith. I want to have faith. I want to continue to believe. But
we're surrounded by the glory of God.
And we're surrounded by the glory of God.
So much that He's already done and already said, and how He's already delivered us, and how there's already been inner healing for all of us on different levels. And there's just so much. Yeah. There's a whole 2 years worth of like a maze that God has done, but yet there's still these tomb areas.
And God's just like, no, right now that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And I've really just sensed that, especially as you were talking, it was just even more so that picture of I've rolled that stone away, and that area of your heart is I'm bringing my glory into to bring healing, to have discussions, like you said, to come into sonship and daughtership where there aren't any areas that you can't talk about, that you can't just come before the Lord and pour out your heart and let Him know how you're feeling and what you're thinking and all of that, and to be able to do it in a place of humility, and to also be able to just say, just really allow God to cover that area with His own grace and carry you. Because, and I think I liked what you had said this morning, because you were saying, you had talked to the Lord about all of this. Were you healed? You were like, no, I'm not healed, but I do have peace.
Yeah, but there was just a peace that came over me, like, I'm okay. Yeah. And it was like, well, of course, why wouldn't I be okay? But that part of my heart didn't know that. Yeah. It was weird because it was unknown to me that was there, because I just live with it. Mm-hmm. And even as you're talking, even as you're talking, I don't even know if we're going to get to the message I have today. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I feel like God's just kind of flowing here, so we're just going to go with the flow, right? Yeah. Just as you were saying that, and you're talking about the tomb opening, I just saw this picture of myself. Oh, Jesus. I saw this picture of myself, and I almost look like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, but just the way he was dressed. Not the ugly face, because as you can see. Anyway. Come on, I can throw some humor in there. But you know how he was just dressed in the loincloth, and he was all naked and dirty and just like that. And I just felt like the tomb was rolled away, and I was in there, and I was super skinny and scrawny and dirty and just... And the Lord was just like, come on out. And I was reminded, even in the midst of seeing this vision of myself, I was reminded of Lana Vosser's recent word, or I think it was her Coffee with Jesus number 4 or 5, about coming up higher or something like that. But it said God's saying to come out and come up, right? And the Lord's been speaking to us a lot about, even when we were doing this video, I saw 747, and I was like, what? So I never see 747. Someone sent me I was seeing 747 like crazy. She gets a prophetic word about, and when you get on the pouredout.org and you look at 747, literally the prophetic word that she got was basically saying all that stuff, but way more than is on there, because it was for us personally, but in general, that's what he was saying. And then that morning, before she gave the prophetic word, I get on Facebook real quick, and someone sent me a message, a personal message, and it was at 7:47 a.m. And I was just like, what in the world? It's like, what are you saying, Lord? And then this morning, on March 1st, God was like, I want you to read that pouredout.org 747 thing again. I want you to read it. And he just highlighted certain parts and saying, that's what I'm doing. I'm going higher and further. Like new level, you know what I mean? But it's like in the midst of that, this, and it's like when I saw this vision as you were talking, that I was just in this cave, just living, just like, this is just how I live. You know, this is, I knew everything. I had it down to a science. It was just, this is the way it is. And God's like, I can just see Jesus just smiling, looking at me going, hey, come out of there. Come out of there. Come out of that thinking.
Yeah.
Come out of that way of thinking that there's something that's off limits in our relationship. Our relationship is naked. It's open.
Yeah.
It's and they were naked and they were unashamed.
Yes.
Talk about getting back to the garden. You can't go to the garden with I'm in the tomb and I got it down to a science mentality.
Yeah.
You can't. Yesterday when we were doing our video about disappointments yesterday, the Lord gave me this vision as we're, because that happens a lot actually, you don't realize, but when we're doing these videos, I'm sitting here, if you ever see me just doing like this and I feel like I'm off in a daze, that's probably the Lord sharing something with me. Yeah. And I just don't share it. But I just had this vision of like the Israelites talking about mentalities and how the mentality has to change. They're in the wilderness. They're getting ready to cross over to the Jordan. And there's this, I just zero in on this imaginary conversation of people going like, I wonder what the manna is like over there. Yeah. Is it good over there when we cross the Jordan? What's the sand going to be like over there? Is it going to be the same kind of sand? Is this sand? It was a conversation like that in the sense of like, wow, you're not thinking promised land thoughts. Yeah. You're thinking desert survival thoughts. You're not thinking life and thriving, you're thinking surviving.
Yeah.
You can't think that way. You're crossing over to the land of milk and honey. Why aren't you asking about the milk and the honey and the fruit and the vegetation and all that stuff? Because you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. It's
not a part of your mental process. It's not, because you've been in the desert all this time. You've been in the wilderness all year, so you're thinking like a wilderness person. And when God showed me this vision of myself in this tomb, he was like, that's what you're like. But that's what that part of your heart is like. When you come up against this area that's like, well, I can't talk about that. I can't. You're hitting another servant mentality area that you just need to come out of that servant mentality thing. And one of the teachers back in my DTS or my School of Evangelism back in '99, early '99. His name's Al McBrien. He went on to be with the Lord now, but one of the most profound things he said during all those teachings that we had with him, and we loved it when he showed up, but he said when a weak conscience is transferring to a healthy conscience, you feel like you're backsliding. You feel like you are, even though you're not. You're doing nothing wrong. You're actually going from weak to healthy. Now you can have a weak conscience, a healthy conscience, and a strong conscience. The two extremes are not good for different reasons. But for me, it's a weak conscience thing. That's what God was showing me. He's like, you have this weakness in this area where you really think that this is where you need to be. You just need to have your little, what is it called? A butler's pantry. Your little butler's pantry area. You got your can of soup. You got your top ramen. You got which are both the same thing. What an example. Anyway, it's like, what I'm saying? You got your little survival things.
Yeah.
And you're living in this mansion.
Yeah.
I mean, you're living in this mansion and you think
sense.
you got your little, wow, that's an interesting piece of bread there you got, Devin. What is that? Oh man, I got it from the day old store. It was real cheap, man. It was real cheap. It was like, we bake fresh bread every day. We got our own bakery.
Yeah.
In the little bakery side of the house there. It's like, yeah, but I didn't want to impose. Yeah. That's that orphan, slave, servant, beggar mentality. And it's so funny how you think, God does gain ground in those areas, but then it's like Dr. Pimple Popper. She's got to squeeze the thing out and it'll pop out, or she's got to cut it out little bits at a time. And it's like a lot of times with God, he's just cutting stuff out a little bits at a time, and then he moves on. Because he can't spend all that time cutting all this stuff out. He's got to revisit it later on and cut some more out. Revisit it. And it's like, and then you're constantly being equipped on how to handle it.
Yeah. And I guess in your example, it's a good, like, if you have that weak conscience, it would, then if, you find out, oh no, you can have all of this, it would probably be a struggle for that person they might, oh, okay, thank you. And they're eating it kind of like, am I really allowed to have this?
I feel like I'm stealing.
Yeah.
It just feels like I'm stealing. Well, you're not. It belongs
it's
to you.
It's yours, yeah.
I know. I'm struggling to believe that. You see? I'm struggling to believe that. And it's like, well, you got to overcome that. I mean, the truth is not going to change.
Yeah.
The truth isn't going to change. God loves you. You're a child of God. You belong to his kingdom. Everything in his kingdom is yours. His whole heart is yours. I mean, he wants to do nothing but share his heart with. All those things are true, whether you believe them or feel them or not. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, it's like I wanted to share that because it fit in with the Lana Vosser word and what you were saying, and God's like, and the tomb's opening. It's like I just feel like that's definitely something for a lot of us.
Yeah.
It's like there's areas that there's these fake boundaried areas that are like not boundaries at all. And God's like, I didn't set those boundaries up.
Yeah.
I want complete total openness. If we're going to go to the garden, and I'm telling you, the garden is what's next. I want you to be totally naked and unashamed.
Yeah.
I want you to be able to share your heart without fear of judgment. Because that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
You don't want to share your heart with God because you're afraid he's going to be disappointed. He's going to be mad. He's going to be like, how dare you think that about me? He's not.
Yeah.
A lot of times the things that we think are frustrating or making God mad, he's actually cracking up about.
Yeah.
I said that today, didn't I?
Yeah.
I was like, God's probably just cracking up at me right now, isn't he? You're like, yep. He is. He's not frustrated at all. He's just like, Devin, you're hilarious.
Yeah. And I think something I know for me, like, you can feel like, oh, well, if I shared this, then that's lacking faith, or I'm, there's something going on there that it's like, no, that's not the reality of what God, he just wants to know us. I think we were talking this morning, and I think a really great example of it is, as a parent, like with your kids, would you rather just have them, maybe they're just upset, they're totally just sometimes even out of line with how they're talking to you, but they really are expressing to you what they're feeling in the moment. It's like, would you rather have that, or would you rather have them just hold it all inside so that they can, appear to be somebody that they really aren't? And it's
know what's going on.
Yeah, you know what's going on.
Something's not right.
You're like, nothing's going on. It's like, no, you would much rather have them come to you and just be honest, be raw, be real of what's going on in our heart. And it's like, okay, maybe later on you'll be correcting them as far as like, okay, well, the next time let's express ourselves differently. But it's like that honestly is like a minor thing. What's more important in that moment is what is going on with you. How we need to get this out, because that can lead to a lot of things that you really don't want to have be going on there. Yeah. And I think that actually, if you wanted to go ahead and share some of what God was showing you, I think that this kind of goes into that. I don't know.
You want me to share the message?
Yeah,
we're already 30 minutes in. All right, I will.
I don't know. I think that it can be good, because I think, the whole point is God really does. I was going to just not do it. Want to share with. Yeah. Have a share with him, and this is why. Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, I will do it then. I don't want to be no disobedient. So,
But yeah, I really like that because it's like when you use it as an example, like your children or something like that, it's like, yeah, that makes complete sense. But when it's you and you're baptized in the moment of it, you're not thinking that.
No.
You're not thinking like that, because the example in an isolated bubble makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are in that bubble, it's like, I don't think I should say that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I want to say that. Whatever, and it's like, there's so much that goes into why the heart gets shaped that way. But God's like, I'm not trying to go all deep theological. I just want you to know me, see my face, and come to me. Let's talk about it, And so, well, that goes into what I felt like the Lord shared with me. Because I had the big old conversation with him, the forbidden conversation. I had that with him, and I felt such a peace. And I was like, this is awesome. And the Lord, the only thing he said to me is, you can ask me anything. We had the conversation, and then he said, man, you're stepping into sonship right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what sons... But he didn't answer any of my questions. None. But then I woke up this morning, and he gave me this word. But he actually told me to look at some other things. He actually gave me 2 revelations today. We touched on a little bit of it already, and he talked about the problem with doubt and false disappointment. It's almost like a part 2 of what we talked about yesterday. And I felt like the Lord, I'm just going to read it. And my goal is really to just honestly remember to just take these notes and put them in the description box so you can just kind of follow along as I'm doing it. But the problem with doubt and false disappointment. Number 1, it's a breeding ground for demonic activity in your life. Mm-hmm. And the Lord showed me. It's like just as you, I'm just going to read. It says, just as you can feel the presence of God and its influence in your life and what it brings, and it's just, this is great. It changes your perspective. It changes your heart. It changes how you feel. Mm-hmm. It changes how you see the situation that maybe you were angry about before. The presence of God does that. So just as you can feel the presence of God, you can also feel the presence of the enemy. Mm-hmm. There's spirit. I'm going to do probably a more intensive video on this very issue that I'm going to talk about here, but there's a spirit of lust, anger, envy, jealousy, greed, pride, deception, witchcraft. Felt that very strongly last year. Profanity. There is a spirit of profanity, believe it or not. Murder, spirit of doubt, etc. You feel these things, and when you feel these things, you feel what that spirit is. Mm-hmm. You get attacked by a spirit of lust, and then you just start feeling it. It happened to me in Walmart long time ago when I worked in Walmart in Indiana. I was like, what in the world is this? This is crazy. And then I looked down. I was literally looking around to be like, what in the world am I getting? I'm getting like, this is weird. This is not me. Yeah. And I saw this lady, and the Lord was like, it's her. And I was like, oh. And there was a whole big story to it. But it's like you start to feel the effects of that thing. Mm-hmm. When we were in Indianapolis, we felt the presence of witchcraft. Yeah. And I took a shower, and I was praying in the Spirit like I had not prayed in the Spirit, but maybe 4 or 5 times like that. Yeah. And it was intense. And I got this vision of all these things. It was like shafts. It was like javelins made of light that were just shooting off from me. They were just going in every direction into the darkness. And it was like the demons were just going nuts, going, ah. They were freaking out because I was feeling the presence of that thing. So it's like you can have a spirit of doubt and unbelief and like false disappointment. It can come, and you can feel the presence of that thing. Yeah. It says these spirits influence you to believe and give your heart over to them. See, so it's like just as God changes your perspective and causes you to see things the right way, these spirits change your perspective and cause you to see things the wrong way. Yeah. And they only want you to focus on what they want. That's what the whole mainstream media thing is all about. Yep. They're just like,
well, I was thinking think election cycles. Yeah. Think anytime that, that's happening, and because you're going to have two sides trying to influence you into believing one thing or the other.
That this is true or this is not true.
Yeah, and so it's like that constant tug of war. And that's where really our heart, it's like, which is so awesome when we have when you have God, you have been released from the bondage of really being taken under and influenced by
every wind
darkness.
of doctrine.
Yeah, every wind. It's like
every political commercial that comes.
Yeah, it's like
oh my God.
You are set free from that so that you can actually see what is true. But our souls the feelings can try and attach, like you're saying, you got to be aware of that, of just like, whoa, the wind can try and influence you into what the enemy is saying and speaking about God.
It's very real.
Yeah.
And it feels like a F5 tornado storm sometimes, and you're going, this is all true. There's no way, because look, this is crazy. And so the next point says, you begin to doubt what you hear is from God based on the current outcome and outlook of your present life. God really focused on, he was like, your present life. And because of this, you begin to look with unbelief on the written word of God. I mean, and so all of this is like a step. It's like a stepping stones. It's a systematic way that the enemy begins to break you down.
Yeah.
1 degree at a time, like the frog in the water.
It's kind of like a gateway drug kind of thing.
Yes, that leads to other things.
This will lead to things much, much worse.
Yeah, because we doubt what God is. We get prophetic words all the time. We live by the rhema of God, right? And of course, the logos can become rhema and all that stuff. But it's like we really feel like God's leading us to do this, that, or the other thing. You step out and you go, "Wow, this really is the Lord," and it continues to be the Lord. And it's like, but things don't happen the way you think, and you keep getting other prophetic words, and those things don't happen, and it creates disappointment. Mm-hmm. It creates a sense of distrust and all that. And so when you get hit really heavy with a demonic spirit, that demonic activity is trying to, it's trying to campaign for influence in your life. When that starts to set in, the next stage is you read something in the written word of God, and you go, "That's not true."
Yeah.
I mean, with your heart, you're saying, "That's not true."
For example, say you have,
and then you're in real trouble.
Yeah. Say you have something you've been praying for healing for years, and and you've heard so many words. Like I think we used that example yesterday.
Oh, with Sean Bowles.
Yeah, Sean Bowles. But I'm just saying, I think that's very real for so many people that there are things that in your life where you're just like, I am praying for healing in this area of my life, and whether like physical healing, and people are saying God is the healer. I've gotten prophetic words that have said I'm going to be healed. Even God's word says He is the healer, and yet it's like you haven't been healed yet. You haven't experienced that. Well, what the enemy's going to come in, and that doubt can lead to you saying, this must not be true. Now, God, if your word is, it's that, well, if your word is true.
Oh, man,
prove it.
That's enemy language 101 there. You find yourself saying, well, if God was, you are snared.
Yeah.
You are in trouble.
And it's like, because that's
even
hope.
Wait till the end of the video.
The enemy was talking to Jesus about. He's like,
if
you are the Son of God, do this.
Yep.
Prove to me who you really are. And that our hearts can start having that attitude towards the Lord because of disappointment or doubt, and then the enemy jumps on that because it really is like a door, especially if you're not taking it to God. If you're just holding, it's like, I keep getting hurt, but you're not telling the Lord about it. You just, all right, well, I'm just going to tuck it away. Well, that tucking away, honestly, it is that breeding ground, that growing ground for the enemy to come in. If you're
not giving him a landing strip, you're giving him an airport.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't want to be that.
Especially with things like disappointment,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it starts to fester. It's very much, it would be like mold growing on. You take this piece of bread that's kind of old, but you just throw it in the back of your refrigerator, and you're just like, I'm just going to leave that there. What's going to happen? It's just going to keep growing and growing and growing, and pretty soon you open that refrigerator, it's like, ooh, what's that smell? Like, I don't know.
After a while, it will be so overgrown with mold, you won't even know that there's bread in there.
Exactly.
It's like, what? That is unidentifiable.
Yes.
And it's in my refrigerator.
Well, and it can get bad enough where, it affects the whole refrigerator so bad that it's like, okay, guys, we can't even, that smell, that's going to be there. You probably just need to get a new refrigerator.
That has never happened in our refrigerator, by the way. Just saying.
No, but I have growing up, I have seen and smelled moldy refrigerators, and you really that smell it's you gross. Cannot get out. But anyway, but we don't want to have that happen with our hearts.
Yeah. So. Well, and there's real disappointments, but at the same time, and you get hurt. There's real hurt and there's real pain. God knows all these things. He knows it. But it's like there are false disappointments as well, in the sense of you're getting upset about a prophetic word not happening, that it's like, well, it hasn't happened yet. Mm-hmm. You're taking the yet part out of there. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And it's like there can be, I guess I don't want to discredit the real pain.
Yes.
Because there is real pain from things that you thought were going to happen that didn't happen. Maybe you thought you were going to marry this person, and you're not going to marry that person. Mm-hmm. And God's been trying to say for a long time, you're not going to marry that person. But that doesn't mean that He doesn't have someone for you to marry. Yeah. See, that's the problem. That's that faulty connection that we talked about in the last video. It's like you're making a faulty connection if you think, well, then I'm just going to be single. Well, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life then. No. Faulty connection alert. Mm-hmm. That's not the thing. God has got, His word is true. Yes. And He will always fulfill His word. So we can go off on that. So I'm going to go on to the next point. Is that good? So, doubt and unbelief lead to distrust. Distrust leads to depression and or anxiety. Mm-hmm. Depression and anxiety lead to anger, which leads to resentment, which leads to a deep-seated bitterness and a wounded spirit. And God really highlighted that part for me, a wounded spirit. And now you have been completely tenderized by the devil, and you are ready for him to cook up your life. So basically, you were a piece of meat, your heart, and he just was tenderizing it with all these depression, anger. Look what happened in the past, and look how God wasn't there for you. And he's tenderizing it with a twisted sense of reality. Hey, Jesus, go ahead and jump, because the word says. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, the word does say that, but you're wrong in how you're trying to apply it. No.
Yeah.
And so the enemy does what he does. He comes in with twisted truths, twisted perspective on your past, twisted perspective on how God was not there for you. God was there for you. He's always there for you. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times we don't feel it, or the presence, the felt presence of the enemy can try to influence us otherwise.
Yeah.
And so, ready for him to cook up your life. Okay, you have been prepared by the enemy for complete habitation. Woo-hoo. You have prepared your heart for his anytime, right now influence over your heart. Because that's what he's got to do. Just like the Lord woos us, the enemy prepares us, all for the purpose of, I want to be able to come to you and move you, and you move. Mm-hmm. Now you will be responsive to anything he has for you, he, the devil. And in effect, you will hate God for all the reasons the enemy has equipped you with. Jesus, the one who died for you to demonstrate his love, the one who sent his Spirit, the one who gave us the written word full of revelation of who he is, mounds of history in there, the one who longs more than anything for us to experience all those truths, not just read them in the Bible. He wants those testimonies and experiences to jump off the page and into our reality. This Jesus you will eventually hate. Now, this is something the Lord was showing me. He was just showing me, like, a Bible-believing young, Christian just got saved, and they've gone through some hardcore stuff, but then they've gone through that one particular hardcore thing. And now, where are they now? What's going on with them? They hate the Lord now. What? Yeah. What in the world? They hate the Lord. They don't want to have anything to do with Jesus. Why? Because of this process that the enemy took them through, and they bought into it. Yep. They totally hit the subscribe button and the little bell.
And it really
they got all the notifications from the enemy about God, and it's just like, no.
Yeah. And it really happens a lot.
Happens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more than we talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it says, this Jesus you will eventually hate. It may not show to other people. This was something that blew my mind. It blew my mind. Anyway, another movie reference. It may not show to other people. In fact, you could still operate in some sort of church capacity, even a high-level capacity, but you'll be full of the devil. Been there, done that, seen it. Not me, not myself, but me and you both have experienced it. We're talking like pastors and pastors' wives, house prophets, full of the devil, full of the devil. And it's just like, what happened to them? What is going on? This happened to them.
Yeah.
Right here. And it's like, they just believed lies. They believed, and I'm reminded even now, I feel like the Lord wants me to share this from Rick Joyner's vision, The Final Quest. He opens up with this dream, opens up the book with this dream he had about the enemy's army. And the front line of the enemy's army were full of people who were former Christians or even current Christians. But they were being ridden on like horses by all these demonic forces. And it was like, that's the vanguard, the front of the enemy's army is Christians.
Yeah.
Religious Christians, people who have been dominated by the enemy, people who have bought into the enemy's ideas, but they're still calling themselves Christian, they're probably still going to church and all that stuff. And I'm just like, wow, how does that happen? Back then, I'm like, how does that even happen? This is how it happened.
Yeah.
The enemy took them through a systematic disassembling of their faith and tested them hardcore, tempted them. Just in the same way it was done to Jesus, it will be done to you. It will. We've gone through it for 2 years. Sometimes we might fail or whatever, but don't matter. We're here now. Yeah. I call it a success in the name of Jesus. Mm-hmm. To His glory, to God be the glory. He's the one who kept us. But the only reason He kept us is because we allowed ourselves, we sometimes made ourselves go to Him and submit ourselves to His influence. God, I am feeling all kind of craziness right now, but I know it's not right. Please help me.
Yeah.
All right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, okay, cool. But a lot of times, God, that breakthrough moment won't come until you do that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Have to. There is the humility factor that is huge.
It is.
Of just going to the Lord even when it's painful, and just that, because we have an enemy. That's the reality, and he is constantly and always trying to come against God's people.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what he wants. He wants God's people to turn against God, just like he did. He himself, he considered himself to just be so glorious and wonderful, and he turned against God. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, all right, well, I want God's people to do the same.
Yep.
I want them to just turn against him, come against him, accuse him, and make it
of their own free will.
Yeah.
That's what he really wants. He wants you to do it on your own.
Yeah, and so he's going to try and use every opportunity. But I'm just like, but let us be reminded, though, that we have Jesus who says, hey, I have overcome everything.
Yeah.
He has overcome. So this is not a doom and gloom kind of thing. This is saying, like, be aware of this, but no, we also have God on our side, who, when we go to him, will overcome all of this.
Yeah, he will deliver. You know, the enemy tried to take us through this. He literally was taking us through this process. You know, we were knee deep in this journey in early 2017. I mean, we had just kind of gotten started, unbeknownst to us.
Yeah.
But and then God was like, "I'm shooting you to Brentwood, Tennessee. I'm releasing you. I'm letting you go there." I'm like, yay, fulfillment of vision, fulfillment of prophecy. And then we got here to Brentwood. Of course, we're in Franklin right now. But anyway, we got here to this region, and we were just high. I mean, we were super high on excitement and just anticipation and just expectation of what God's going to do while he's got us here. You know, we're going to make a connection. Something's going to happen. It was a disaster. I mean, it did not go at all the way we thought. And then eventually, after about a week, and we spent a ton of money that we just didn't have. We were just going out on faith, you know. We ended up having to go back to Kansas City. And man, we were devastated on a whole nother level. On a whole nother level of just like, wow. We were angry. Doubt and unbelief lead to distrust. Distrust leads to depression and or anxiety. Depression and anxiety lead to anger, because you're like, why am I depressed and anxious? I'm just mad now because look at what happened, which leads to resentment, which leads to a deep-seated bitterness and a wounded spirit. Man, we were going through all of that.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, I think we got to the threshold of deep-seated bitterness and wounded spirit. And the Lord was like, Devin, this is exactly the way the enemy wants you to respond to this situation.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, man, it crushed me. I mean, I heard that in a state of bitterness and resentment and anger, and I was mad. I was like, how could you do this? If this wasn't you, how could you let it happen? But it was the Lord. That's the whole point. That's what makes it so. If it wasn't the Lord, I don't know if it would be as bad. Maybe just like, oh, we messed up and you let it happen. But it actually was him leading us here, knowing we were only going to be here a week, knowing everything we thought about it and all that. And he did that. And it was just like, oh. But it was just like, God was like, he came to me so tenderly. Oh, Jesus, help me. He came to me so tenderly. And he was like, you're responding exactly. It wasn't like you're responding exactly the way the enemy wants you to respond. It wasn't like that.
No.
He was like, Devin, you are responding exactly the way the enemy wants you to respond in this situation. And it just broke me.
Yeah.
And we talked. Remember that? We talked, and I was like, babe, we need to get right.
We did.
We need to get right. We need to go to the Lord, and we did. We just went to the Lord. And I tell you, instantaneous peace. Instantaneous. I mean, we didn't feel instantaneous healing, but we felt instantaneous peace. And it was just like, and we just kept going with the journey.
Yeah.
And man, I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
Because it started getting amazing. Especially come like late August, September. Woo! We totally went up a 747. Shoosh. Went to a whole nother level. It was just really good. That's when God started introducing us to the prophetic numbers and all that stuff. And it just got really good. And then by the end of 2017, he actually brought us here. He fulfilled the promise in the sense of, I'm going to take you there. But then here comes another opportunity. Because it's like, well, where's the house, that glorious, wonderful house, and the financial promise and all that stuff that he was promising us? It's like, well, where is that? 8 months later, Lord, you do remember the promise, right? You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, like, you're talking to people who have been through it.
Yeah.
We've been through it, and we have seen Jesus overcome.
Yeah.
You know, I almost hate to say stuff like I have overcome, because I really didn't.
Yeah.
He overcame. He offered us the overcoming power he already supplied through the cross, and we said, yes, we'll take that. and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
We did nothing. People tell us all the time, oh, you have no idea how much your messages are. They're not our messages. We are doing nothing. We're just saying yes. And of course, to God, He's saying, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I want you to say yes. I want you to believe. I want you to know who I am so that when you go through the trouble, you got to know I'm with you in the trouble. Don't block me out of you being in trouble. You do not want to do that.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of times what we want to do when we get in trouble. So that leads to the answer. So what's the answer to all that? Did you want to add any more?
No, I think what we've shared is really good.
So that leads to the answer, which if you've already read ahead in the description, you already know this. But the answer to all of this is what, like we just did in our Brentwood debacle example, you must repent. You must humble yourself before God. You must cast all of your cares upon God. You must have an honest, dirt-honest conversation with God. And of course, if you look in the description there, all of these scriptures are attached, because this is all scripture that God was sharing with me here. You must pour out your heart before the Lord and allow those hurt places to be touched by Him who is the healer of the brokenhearted.
Yes.
It's like that whole tomb, and I'm coming out looking like a gangly little Gollum. And God's like, I have so much. I see you strong, fit, fatter, clean, got a little more hair than this, regal clothing. That's what I see for you.
Yeah.
You know, that part of our heart that is messed up, He wants to beautify it with royalty. You know, you must deny yourself, take up your cross, your personal death and pain, and follow Him. You must come to Him if you are weary and heavy burdened. You must ask Him to heal you and deliver you and forgive you for all wrongs, anything you might have said against Him or done against Him in your unbelief and distrust in that process that you were going through in your heart that the enemy was facilitating. Just ask Him to forgive everything, and He will, because He desires to do so, and He is just and right to do so. He wants to do it, you know, because it is for this reason that the blood of Jesus was poured out. The blood of Jesus was poured out so that you could freely pour out your heart to Him and become a new creation and be adopted as His child, where there is no condemnation, where there is no judgment. There's nothing but face-to-face intimacy and relationship with Him. You know, and God wants you to stay and remain forever in His care. And that's pretty much what the Lord shared with me today, and it was pretty spectacular. And I was like, that literally is an actual answer to some of the things I was praying. Now, some of the stuff I was praying were like when prayers and how prayers, like when is this going to happen? How long is this going to happen? He has yet to answer that. I will get back with you soon. Speaking like my father, I'm just going to say soon. That could be 2,000 years from now, but hey, it'll be soon. So
it reminds me of when Moses was when the burning bush first comes, and God's like, and this will be the sign. You will be standing at this mountain again with the Israelites, but that's the sign that I'm going to have. Isn't
that the fulfillment?
Yeah.
So you're saying the fulfillment of the word is the sign of the word coming to pass?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I just think it's funny.
Well, it's kind of like our promise. God said that's a sign of the level of intimacy I want to walk with you, and it's like it's happening. God really is elevating us. He's like, the elevation process has begun, and I'm doing it right now. And what I have to do is open up those tombs, and bring that part of you out, because you can't have that go into the garden with you. You can't have areas that are closed. You can't have this thinking that I better close that up because the Lord's going to be mad if I show him that. What you talking about? He already sees it.
Yeah.
He already knows everything that's there.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like you might as well bring it out in the open. And it's like, well, if he knows it, why do I need to share it? Well, because that's what creates relationship.
Well, and really so much of the sharing, I experienced even just this morning is that there can be ways of thinking that just aren't true,
But they feel very true, don't they?
Yeah, it feels true. Or you don't even realize you're thinking a certain way until you start really kind of unpacking things. And then God's like, oh, that's not true. And then when you are in a place where you're just like, you embrace that and embrace the truth, and it completely changes everything.
Yeah.
And, I mean, just like as we're reading through all of that, the process that the enemy can take you through. I mean, for me personally, along this journey, it's happened a lot. I think last year in January.
That was like your monthly newsletter right there.
Oh, I know, really. I mean.
It's like, oh, Michelle's going through it again. Let's
just
hold your hand. Come on, man.
But,
You're all right.
I know.
Nope, sorry, that's not true. All right. Well, it wasn't always like that.
No.
Sometimes it was like, Michelle, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. But I just want to share for those that, maybe you are in those places where your heart has truly just been wounded, but just that I can testify to the fact that God has been so tender with me, and he is so good about bringing us along despite the pain. Yeah.
He only took an hour nap. That's great.
Awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, so you can go to bed earlier tonight.
Yes.
And
it's like, let me squeeze in. All right.
But I just want to encourage you that that God is just he is very tender and very loving, and his heart truly is for you. He's not against you. He is for you, and so that's just, I think, what we have for you guys today.
Yeah. Whether you feel it or not, just sometimes you must do that. You have to pick yourself up by the scruff of your own neck and throw yourself into the presence of God. I don't feel like singing. No, that's when you need to.
Yeah.
I don't feel like praying. Oh, that's when you need to. And it's easier said than done. It really is. But yeah, we just hope that this encouraged you guys.
Yes.
We had no idea this was going to be this long, but
yeah.
But short video or long video, man, if it's the Lord's heart, I don't care. I would sit with the Lord for like ever.
Yeah.
I don't really care. There's no time. It's having a time limit with the Lord that really bothers me.
Yeah.
That's why when there's nothing going on and there's no wind in the sails, that I'm just like, you know what I'm saying? So isn't that right? Yeah. So God bless you guys. Did you have any final thoughts?
No, I think that's it. I just
that was your final thought?
Yeah, that was my final thought.
Okay, cool.
Just know that God is for you, not against you, and that he tenderly loves you. And just go to him with everything. And he is the healer of hearts. And, hold fast to what you have. Reminded of the Revelation 3:11. So hold fast to what you have, because he is coming, and he
so that no one may rob you and deprive you
of your crown.
That's what he's been trying to do that all week.
Yeah. So we will end with that. Pray that you guys are blessed, and until next time, we will see you later.
You gonna say bye-bye?
You want to say bye-bye?
Say bye-bye. He's like, I just woke up, y'all. Anyway, bye, guys.
Bye.
Love ya.